On our first lacrosse chat of the year with our guy, Quint Kessenich, as we get ready for what should be a big season of Q's lacrosse. Hey, Q, how's it going?
Brian, how you doing? I watched last night. I thought that was energizing. It was inspiring. It was creative. It was fun to watch, man. That was exciting. I was just really thrilled with the ball movement and the shot making that I saw from that offense. It was awesome, and I think we're in for a really good spring. If you're a fan up in Central New York, you got to get to the Dome. This team's fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't know. Will Syracuse end up being the best team or not? Well, we'll find out over the course of the next few months. I think it may be inarguable, right? Like, this is the team to watch if you just want to be entertained by what's going on out there.
Well, they basically return the entire offense, the top six, and you can see how comfortable they are with each other. The confidence they have, the seam passes, the skip passes, the movement. You have the Dodgers with Leo and Roa. Spallina's always fun to watch. Hiltz had his game going, and Thompson can't miss on the inside right now. And then you throw in Sam English, who's like reprising the Matt Abbott role of being on the field the whole game doing everything. Mm-hmm. And it's just it's fun to watch, and they have really started this season to me where they kind of left off last year. It was a sour taste in quarterfinal defeat, but they bring that unit back, and they're kind of clicking at midseason form in a year where a lot of other teams have gaps and holes to fill.
Yeah, including the returning two-time champs in Notre Dame. We'll get to see what they look like this weekend for the first time this year. It's still so early. I mean, the season didn't usually even start for a few weeks from now, not that long ago, and the Orange have already played 3 games with Maryland coming up on Saturday. When you look at this Orange team right now, they're certainly passing the eye test today in February. When you look at them now, Quint, what are you seeing like, all right, what do they need to figure out now until May to really make a run at this?
As you said, again, long season, and so improvement is critical. A couple areas that jump out. I think their close defense is improved. I think Michael Grace is an upgrade. Mm-hmm. I think Billy Dwan III is terrific. I think Riley Figueres, now he's healthy. So I think the close defense is in a good spot. The short stick defensive midfielders, I will say, have improved. That is huge. Carter Rice is a clearing machine. I've never seen him look so fast. He's every time he gets the ball, boom, he's gone up the field. So he looks good. Question marks I have right now would be the second Fogo. Mullins has done well as the primary guy. That's a position that typically guys can get banged up. You need 2. So I worry about the second Fogo. And then last night, the second midfield didn't produce much. Burt Whistle doesn't seem like he's comfortable in that role. He's such a great shooter and a great scorer. I think sometimes he's trying to do too much. And then in that, there's still some question marks. I thought McCool looked great against Vermont. And the earlier game, I thought last night he was a little shaky on some pipe-to-pipe stuff. Again, as the level of competition goes up, and he's very inexperienced. He's very good, big lefty. But, the side-to-side ball movement or the back-to-front ball movement, you're going to get exposed as a goalie as you play better teams, because the ball movement is testing you on your line. And I thought there were a couple times last night I didn't love his pipe-to-pipe movement, and I didn't love that rebound that he lost. The ball hit off his stick, and he kind of lost sight of it. But again, he's good. He's just inexperienced.
Yeah. Speaking of better teams, Syracuse will play all of them at some point this season. When you look at their schedule, is just absolutely stacked. Somehow even more so than usual, and we know it always is. You mentioned the face-off thing here, Quint, and we know Mullen is good. You mentioned second face-off guy. They've changed the face-off rules here yet again for the 8 millionth time this year. How do you see that playing in, the violation thing, or if you get one, you can't take the next? It's intriguing to me. How do you think that sets up face-offs this year?
I just think it means you need a competent second face-off guy. And I think that's always been the case. You can roll the dice and try to get through the season with one guy, but when you're playing now, 12, 13 regular season games, plus then at least, 3 in the tournament, 4 in the tournament, it's a lot of wear and tear. And the season's longer than it used to be. These guys are playing year-round. And so I worry about, you think about the injuries to Fogos, whether it's their hands, their wrists, their elbows, their shoulders, they take a beating. So in this day and age, I like a team that's got a a complimentary guy, he's only got to take 20% of the faceoffs. And if he can get anywhere near 50%, that's a plus. I haven't seen that yet from the Orange.
Yeah, that's what they had last year because Mason Cohn was their guy. And, you look at Mullen, he was the complimentary guy. Then by the end of the season, they were almost splitting 50-50. I think back to, and this, at least to me anyway, Q, this is the best Syracuse team, I think, probably at minimum since 2015, which was the Ben Williams team. And you talk about faceoff guys, like that guy wasn't the same by the end of his career by how much physicality he took. Like you really, as you say, you need more than one guy, or else by the end of the year, the odds of you being right are just not there.
Yeah, and I agree with you about this being the best Syracuse team in the last 10 years. Without question, I think there's a lot of talent. I think there's a focus. I think they know they're good, but I think the loss really in the quarterfinals really stuck with them. These are guys that want to play in championship weekend. They want to play for championships. They've been together now. This is kind of going on their third year as a group together. Mm-hmm. There's good experience there. I think there's confidence on offense. I think they realize that they can play complementary lacrosse. They're not one-sided. They're not overly dependent on their O or their D. There'll be a game this year that they will win with their defense. There'll be a game, many games that they will win with their offense. But so I think they're in a good spot. I think Gary, having been through this now, understands the demands of this schedule, of the travel, of the ACC, of the non-conference portion. So they're in a great spot. I got them at number 2. Solid number 2. And if Notre Dame doesn't look good, I would not hesitate to put Syracuse at number 1. Everybody I've seen so far can't touch the Orange. Now, I haven't seen Cornell. We haven't seen Princeton. We haven't seen Yale. I haven't really gotten my eyes on Penn State. They look like they're pretty good. But I know, in my eyes, if Hopkins played Syracuse right now on a neutral field, Syracuse would win.
Yeah, and you mentioned we haven't seen Notre Dame yet. They played this week, and they've obviously won the last 2 titles. They're finally down to only one Kavanaugh. It's taken a while. Pat's finally gone. They only got Chris left. Liam Entenmann's no longer there. What do you think Notre Dame is this year as they go for a three-peat, which obviously hasn't happened since Gary himself was playing? Well, I guess Princeton won 3 in the 90s, but it hasn't happened in a while, right? Like this is a big ask for Notre Dame this year.
I spoke to defender Sean Light this morning on my podcast. He's a sophomore. He's a second-team All-American, 6'5", 200, terrific cover guy. And he pointed out that he's playing now alongside 2 new defenders. So between the goaltending position and 2 defenders, you've got some new faces down there. I think offensively they're going to be in a good spot. They had 9 midfielders they could turn to last year. 6 or 7 of them are back. They do lose Pat Cavanaugh, but Chris slides right in. Jake Taylor is a strong player, and they got a freshman by the name of Picorni who's apparently tearing it up on the left-hand side. So I don't worry about them offensively. I think somewhere along the line they'll probably lose a game or 2, and it might be the best thing for them because if they do run the table, the pressure's going to build and build and build for a three-peat. Yes, they're the team to beat. You got to see them. They open up on Wednesday against Cleveland State. They got a soft opening. They play Marquette on Saturday, and then on the 22nd they travel to Georgetown, and that's a game they got to have circled because that was a loss last year. That was their only loss. So, all signs are that they're going to open up 3-0, and we're not really going to know much about them yet until some of the competition gets steeper.
Yeah, and how about Cornell? They're currently 3rd in the poll. C.J. Kirst, maybe the best guy in the country. He's back again. The Orange play Cornell. That game's actually down on Long Island this year. Like, are they in the mix? Like, how are we feeling about the Big Red this year?
They could be. The Ivy League to me has got a lot of talent but all the teams have a question mark. Okay, so you got Cornell with this great offense, Willem Firth, Michael Long, C.J. Kirst. They got Ryan Goldstein, who I like a lot. They can score. Well, can they win faceoffs and can they stop people? Same with Princeton. Princeton's loaded on offense. Nate Kabiri, Coulter Mackesy, decent face-off game with Andrew McMeekin, but I'm not convinced their defense is elite. And then you got a team like Yale. They return Leo and Lyons. Chris Lyons and Leo Johnson are healthy. Yale had all sorts of injuries last year. And then Penn is all about defense. So those teams, to me, are a little bit not complimentary yet until we see them. We don't know what the other side, we know they can score goals, or in Penn's case, we know they can play defense. We just don't know if Penn can score enough goals. And I think that's one thing where Syracuse is sitting in a nice spot right now as being a complementary team. Hopkins, I would say, is complementary also. Probably not to the talent level on offense that Syracuse has would be the separator there. But the Ivy League certainly someone's going to emerge from that group as a championship weekend or a title contender, and I think multiple teams will potentially win playoff games and be a major threat. So it's a great league. And Cuse obviously playing Cornell and Harvard. That Harvard game jumps out to me as a scary game for Syracuse because I don't think they have any respect for Harvard, and Harvard will be sneaky in that game and probably give them a better game than people would realize.
Yeah, Ivy League stuff gets going this weekend here. And then there's the ACC. We always look at the ACC. Obviously, Notre Dame and Cuse 1-2 right now. It's kind of weird to have all the way down at, 6 and 7 or what Virginia and Duke are right now. What do you make of those two that always have just talent oozing everywhere? Do you see it clicking for either of those teams this year?
I've got Virginia-Richmond this Saturday, so I watched Virginia's game against Colgate, and it was a 19-9 final score. So the box score is really impressive, but you plug the game in, and, man, it was like a drunken lacrosse game. It was just Virginia hardly scored any goals in the settled sets. Everything was off of face-offs, off their breaking a clear, on their ride with their 10-man and transition. And it was very different from, let's say, Syracuse, who's getting most of their goals in their settled sets. So Richmond's going to give Virginia an interesting game this weekend because I think Richmond's going to slow it down a bit and force Virginia to show me what they have in the 6-on-6 sets. But I like some of Virginia's personnel. I think there's maybe some question marks with midfield scoring. We'll see. Carolina's a little interesting. Owen Duffy and Dom Petramala. Carolina's kind of trending in the right direction in a year in the ACC where outside of Syracuse and Notre Dame, it might be kind of open. So I put Syracuse and Notre Dame 1-2, 2-1 in the ACC, being chased by Duke, Virginia, and Carolina. Duke, I like their first midfield. Duke's got an entirely new attack. Should be okay defensively and in the middle of the field, but a lot of question marks. Last year's senior class graduated gazillions of guys with the COVID, with the stacked COVID rosters, and so outside of Cuse, there's a lot of teams that have new faces everywhere. Well, we finally sorted through, I think, basically all of the COVID extra years at this point. So finally got through that. Now Syracuse, go figure, with all these juniors, is one of the more veteran teams. Final Four bust this year for the Cuse, Quint. I know quarterfinal games can't be taken for granted anywhere anymore, right? But it feels like this would be a disappointing season for Syracuse if they're not in Foxborough come Memorial Day weekend. It would be. I think the big question mark, we're combining the men's and women's. Will the women's team, share a convoy across Massachusetts to Gillette Stadium? The women they'll play their semifinals on Friday and their championship game on Sunday, and the men will play on Saturday and Monday. So it's going to be quite a festival. You could have two orange teams there, certainly, if things break your way. Yeah. Speaking of knowing a lot of names on the men's team, man, the box score for the women's game last week is like, man, there's not a lot left that I'm aware of right now on that orange women's team. They got a very new unit this year, but that's great though. I've liked it. The years, Quint. It's been sometimes the Final Fours have been in the same cities over the last 10, 15 years. Sometimes they've been not. I like it when they're in the same place, and this year quite literally the same stadium. I think that's cool, right? When you get all the Lax fans in one place. I know. I do. I like the combining the men's and the women's. I think it's good for everybody. I think we can get more eyes on these games. I think from a promotional standpoint, I just think cross-pollination is a benefit for everybody. I love Philly. Philly's my favorite site. Boston's pretty good once you get up to Gillette. The Patriots treat everyone so well up there. But so that's kind of the storyline this year will be the combining of the men's and women's and to make it one giant festival. You can see a lot of lacrosse in a 4-day period. Yeah, it was really fun back in, unfortunately, this was the last time the men were in the Final Four, 2013, when it was Philly and the women played at Villanova, so it was all kind of right in the same area there. All right, Q, always great to talk some Lax. I'm sure we'll touch base plenty over the course of the season, but thanks for hopping on for a few today. Higgins, great to hear your voice. There he is, our guy Kessenich. You'll hear him covering Lax all season long on ESPN. I'm sure Quint will have his fair share of Cuse games before all is said and done this year. All right, with that, we will step